The morning air on the McBee farm felt different. Still crisp, still quiet, still lined with the familiar sounds of cattle in the distance, but somehow heavier. For the McBee family, this day marked a transition none of them had ever truly prepared for. Steve McBee Sr., the outspoken head of McBee Farm and Cattle Co., was beginning a temporary, court-ordered separation from everyday life. He had spent the past week doing what he always does when life throws him something big, grounding himself in family, work, and gratitude. And, of course, sharing that journey with the people who follow the McBee story so closely. In a final morning video filmed right outside the barn, Steve looked straight into the camera with a calm, steady expression that only wavered when he mentioned the outpouring of support. "I want to thank everyone," he said sincerely. "Your messages mean more than I can say. I tried to respond to as many as possible. Even stayed up past midnight doing it. But if I missed you, please know I read every word." For those asking how to show encouragement, Steve asked fans to simply continue supporting the family's farm. "We're a small, hardworking team," he said. "Just knowing people are behind us keeps everything moving." His final days on the farm. Thanksgiving weekend had been a whirlwind of family, food, and final moments before Steve stepped away. He had promised himself one last indulgent meal at home, a thick, perfectly cooked steak with potatoes, his longtime favorite, and in true McBee fashion, he spent the holiday cooking for everyone else before preparing anything for himself. "I love cooking for the whole crew," he said earlier that week. "On holidays, anyone connected to the family knows they're welcome. My brothers, my sister, extended relatives, they all come through." The farm looked peaceful that Thanksgiving morning. The sun cast long shadows over the pasture as Steve shared a message from outside the house. "We're all blessed in so many ways. Every day we wake up with a roof over our heads, work to do, and people who care about us. That's something I never take for granted." What happens to Gunnar? One of Steve's biggest concerns wasn't the business or even himself. It was his loyal dog, Gunnar, who had been glued to his side since he was a tiny pup. "Gunnar's my guy," he often joked. "Honestly, I worry about him more than my grown kids." Grandma McBee volunteered to stay at Steve's house and take care of Gunnar while he was gone. The visual of her quilting in the living room while the big, energetic dog lounged at her feet made the entire family smile. And according to Steve, Gunnar will still get visits from familiar faces. His former partner Christy planned to bring him whenever possible so he could see his favorite human. The family's reactions. The McBee sons, Stephen Jr., Jesse, Cole, and Breeden, each processed the moment in their own way, but their message was united: support, strength, and loyalty. Stephen Jr. wrote under Steve's farewell post, "Love you, we'll get through this together." Allie Eklund, Stephen Jr.'s new partner, added her own note of encouragement, making it clear that Steve wasn't facing this transition alone. Casey Adkisson, mom to Steve's first grandchild, shared a heartfelt message about how loved he is as a grandfather, reminding him that little Blair always lights up when he's around. Even Galina Solkowska, Steve's former partner and the company's CFO, recorded a video from Liberty, Missouri. The family's car wash business there had just received its first winter snowfall, and she spoke over the sound of crunching ice. "Sending you strength," she said. "We've got everything handled here. We'll be ready for you and your back." Looking ahead with optimism. Before departing, Steve gathered his team for one last meeting. He told them something they didn't expect. Sometimes the leader stepping back gives everyone else room to shine. He encouraged them to take initiative, trust their instincts, and not fear mistakes, as long as they were made with integrity and effort. "I'm proud of the people around me," he said. "This is the strongest crew I've ever had, and I know the farm will keep moving forward." His words weren't dramatic or tearful, just grounded and steady, the way someone speaks when they've made peace with a difficult moment. A pause, not an ending. As Steve stepped away to start this temporary chapter, the McBee family stood behind him with unwavering support. Life on the farm would continue. Cattle needed tending, the business needed overseeing, and families needed gathering. But for the next little while, they would do it while counting the days until Steve returned home. The moment Steve stepped away from the farm, even for a short chapter, everyone felt the shift. The McBee farm had always operated like a living, breathing organism, every person connected, every routine flowing into the next. With Steve gone, the silence was noticeable, but so was the sense of purpose. The family understood that this period wasn't about slowing down. It was about rising to the occasion. The first evening without him. That evening, after Steve left, the house felt strangely still. The porch light flickered on automatically as the sun dipped, a reminder of how many nights Steve had sat out there, checking on the livestock across the fields or calling the boys to talk about work. Now it was Grandma McBee who stepped out onto the porch first, Gunner at her side, nudging her hand with his snout. The dog paced back and forth, clearly unsure why his best friend hadn't returned that afternoon. She knelt, brushing her hand through his fur. "He'll be back, boy," she whispered, her voice almost swallowed by the wind. "We just have to keep things steady until then." The kitchen windows glowed from the inside as Stephen Jr. and Cole cleaned up after dinner, both unusually quiet. They weren't men of excessive emotion, but they felt the absence deeply. "We just gotta keep everything moving," Cole finally said, drying a plate. "Dad would hate if we slowed down." Stephen nodded, knowing that stepping up was their responsibility now, not just for the business, but for the family's morale. A new rhythm on the farm. The next morning began early, as it always did, with the ranch hands arriving before dawn. The cold air bit at their cheeks as they prepared feed, checked fences, and rounded up cattle for the day. The team was a mix of seasoned workers and newer faces, people Steve had personally recruited and trusted. He had always talked about leadership in terms of heart, not rank, and his absence gave everyone a chance to embody that belief. Jesse stepped into the role of early morning organizer, something his father normally handled. He walked the fields with a small group, analyzing the overnight conditions, planning out repairs, and noting anything that needed attention. "Dad would have said these posts need reinforcing," one ranch hand commented, tapping a fence rail. "Then let's get it done today," Jesse replied, already rolling up his sleeves. The workers exchanged quick, encouraging looks. They respected Steve, but they respected the family just as much. The atmosphere on the ranch quickly warmed from silence to determination. Inside the family business office, meanwhile, the administrative side of McBee Farm and Cattle Co. was moving at full speed. Galina, though no longer romantically connected to Steve, had always taken her role as CFO seriously. She sat in the Liberty office, surrounded by spreadsheets, invoices, livestock reports, and messages from customers sending kind notes about Steve. She paused occasionally to record short video updates to the staff across different branches. "Everything is running smoothly," she assured them. "We're focusing on stability, growth, and supporting one another. That's what Steve would expect." She ended each message with the same reminder. Strength comes from unity, and we have that. The community steps in. Over the next several days, something unexpected happened. The community surrounding the McBee family, neighbors, customers, farmers, and even people living hundreds of miles away, began showing up in ways big and small. People placed orders on the farm website in record numbers, leaving notes like, "Thinking of your family. Stay strong. We believe in the McBees." A local church organized a weekly meal drop-off for Grandma McBee, knowing she would be busy tending to both Gunner and the household. Nearby farms reached out, offering assistance with equipment or manpower if the McBees ever needed it. And one early morning, a group of young ranchers left a stack of chopped firewood on the McBee porch with a simple note, "For winter warmth, from friends." It was the kind of small-town support that made the family emotional in the best way. Gunner's adjustment? Gunner, though confused at first, slowly fell into a new routine. Grandma's presence soothed him, and the constant flow of activity around the house gave him distractions. Visits from the boys, feed deliveries, even the natural movement of the ranch. Still, every time the front door opened, Gunner perked up with hope, and every time he realized it wasn't Steve, he settled back down with a soft huff. Christy visited often, bringing treats and brushing the dog's fur while talking to him softly, promising they would visit Steve soon.